Welcome to Well Since You Asked Me, the podcast where curiosity sparks conversation. I'm Len, your host. In this heartfelt, thought-provoking episode, I sit down with guests Monet and Ryan for a candid conversation about what it means to grow biracial in America. From navigating predominantly white spaces as children to unpacking their evolving racial identities as young adults, Monet and Ryan share deeply personal reflections on culture, belonging, and the power of community. Together, they explore questions like, what does it mean to embrace both sides of your racial identity? How do you handle the moments when others try to define you? And why is cultural connection so important? Whether you've lived these experiences or are seeking to better understand it, this episode offers honest insights, a few laughs, and powerful truths about identity, perception, and finding your place in the world. So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's get into it. Monet, and Ryan, welcome. I'm so glad that you're both here. So let's go ahead and start with each of you telling me a little bit about your experience growing up biracial. Monet, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Well, first, thanks so much for having me.
Of
This
course.
is such an honor. I, I growing up biracial has been kind of like an on-off thing in my immediate thoughts, I suppose. I can distinctly remember being in a room with my friends and my mom coming to pick me up and getting in the car and going, Mom, I'm the only black person in that room
Mm,
full of people. And she was like, Oh, is that okay? And I said, Yeah, that's fine. It's just I just noticed I'm not used to noticing any differences between anybody. So, but I grew up in a mixed household. My mother is white, my dad is black. My sister and I are both biracial. Honestly, we grew up around a lot of white people. So, um, I never race was rarely a factor in like
hmm
relationships, friendships, just existing in general when I was younger. It never seemed to be at the forefront of my mind until I got a little
hmm
older and a more kind of self-aware and socially aware of like my place in the world, the people around me who I interact with on a daily basis, who's in the communities that I'm in a daily basis, that kind of thing. So it really, I, I think for me, it really came to a head going to college and realizing that or feeling like I may not necessarily fit in with groups of black people or white people. There might be a disconnect between the two that I'm not used to. And so getting kind of wrapping my head around who I am and like what my race means to me and
mm,
how it comes out in me, I suppose.
yes.
And kind of realizing that there's no monolith, it's not the same, and it's it's really more personal than I think I realized at the time. So I spent a lot of college thinking and evaluating myself and what does it mean to be black? What does it mean to be white? What does it mean to be biracial? And how
hmm
do I fit in those spaces? I had a lot of questions of, am I allowed to go into a a group in college that is for black people? Am I allowed
hmm
to be in that space? Because
Interesting.
I may not have the same perspectives. I may not have the same experiences. Not to say everyone does, but there's a
Right.
lot of what I love most about the Black community and a lot of different communities is that there's always a few things that are going to connect and unite people, and a lot of those have to do with experiences. Something that I always thought of was like hair. Hair is a really big connector experience for a lot of people in a lot of different cultures, and not having the knowledge that I felt I should have had going into those spaces made
Mhm.
me hesitant to even enter those spaces in the first place.
Ryan, I'm going to give you just a chance. I just want to explore just a couple of things that you said, Monet. How old were you when you were in that space and you realized that people looked different, that was something that was noticeable to you?
Gosh, I think I was probably about 13, 12 or 13 when I realized it. I kind of I've always had a kind of a mix of friends, mostly
Hmm.
white friends, just because that was who tends to be in Christian homeschool groups.
Right.
But so that does, make a bit of a difference. But so I had some biracial friends growing up. I had some black friends growing up, but the majority of my friends tended to be white. So it
Yeah.
was never, at no point did I ever think anything was different between any of us until that point that I realized, oh, I am the only person of color in this space. And
It's interesting. Yeah,
what
because
does that mean?
I do know that you were homeschooled, and I know that just a little bit about your background. So I think that that's an interesting point that growing up in that space and who was available to you to interact with. So thank you for
Hmm.
sharing that. Ryan, do you want to talk a little bit about your experience growing up biracial?
Yeah, so I feel like growing up, I went to a private school my first couple of years. I think from kindergarten, pre-K to sixth grade, and in that private school, there was only really like white people there, so I guess that was my group of space. But then we switched over to a public school, and then you know, like it was majority was people of color, like black people and like Hispanic people. And um growing up, I mean I didn't really think anything of it. Still, even now I don't know. I don't really think that much of it, but I don't know. I guess I could see how like the groups are like relatively different from one of each other, but I still got along with a lot of them. So I feel like my group now, it's a very diverse group, but I feel like the majority is black people. But growing up, you know, whenever I hung out on my dad's side, which is my white side, and then on my mom's side, which is the black side, I don't know. Obviously, like things were relatively different with like the culture, but I mean, it was still cool, and they were welcoming. So yeah, it was nice.
Thank you for sharing that. So being a mother of two biracial sons, a lot of times I will defer to my kiddos and I will guide them, but I don't know how what your space is because that's not my experience. And so I can put some guardrails around, I can answer a few questions, but generally I have to rely on my boys to give me information. They have to inform me. So, did you gravitate towards one side of your identity or than the other, or did you always embrace both? And Ryan, I'll let you go first on this one.
Um, Honestly, I feel like I kind of embraced both, but I also gravitated more the black side because I mean that was the majority of the people I hung out with, and I still hang out with to this day. So yeah.
Monet?
I think it kind of goes back and forth for me. I think for the majority of my life, because I really didn't think much of my race period, that
Hmm.
it really didn't make much of a difference. I definitely found as I got older and still do, wanting to hold on more tightly and connect more tightly to the my Black identity, and in identifying as a Black woman more than a biracial woman, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm still personally unpacking. That,
Interesting.
that's a definitely a therapy appointment coming up, I'm sure. But it's I I think I find myself gravitating more toward my Black identity. I think because there's so much love and acceptance, and there's a level of community that I think growing up in predominantly white spaces isn't, it's a cultural community that I'm not
Hmm.
used to having, and that's what I wanted. So I do find myself now um identifying more as black than by, if somebody asked me, I would say black, which does get followed up by, are you sure? Really?
Wow.
Crazy.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. That's a fun time.
Well,
That's a fun conversation. So, um, yeah, but I do find myself gravitating more toward a black identity. I think just because there's just more cultural community there, and I want to hold on to what that community represents, what those people represent, I think
Mm.
more so than I do what the white community represents, if
Hmm.
that makes
I
sense.
agree.
No, no, no. Ryan, did you
Yeah,
want to
'cause
add something?
yeah, I agree. If someone were to ask me like, "What are you?" I'd say black, because I don't know. I feel like I don't know. This might be a little controversial, but is there like really any like that much of like culture going on with white people? I guess like compared to black people, that is. So I don't know. I feel like yeah, I agree with there. So yeah, there's more culture going on there. So I mean, it's still cool on both sides, but yeah.
It's interesting. So there are a couple of things I wanted to unpack, but when you talked a little bit about, I think Ryan, you said when people say, oh no, you said, Monet, are you sure? And then Ryan, you agreed with it. So when those moments come up with, do you feel that people are trying to define who you are, and how do you navigate those questions?
I feel like, at least in my experience, it tends to be less of a defining and more that people want to check a mental box, which I
Mm,
do understand to an extent. Like
hmm.
I, I don't know if y'all have this experience, but I absolutely have been walking down the street and in my head gone like, oh, she's got a cute outfit. Oh wait, he has a cute out. They have a cute outfit.
Yes.
And you're trying to like correct in your head because your
Yes.
head wants to categorize. Your brain
Right.
naturally wants to
Mm.
categorize things. So I think a lot of it, at least the people that I've interacted have been good faith. Um, but I think for the most part, it's been more I'm trying to put you in a box as opposed to I can't if I can't tell. I frequently will get Hispanic, Puerto Rican, Dominican. That's typically what I will receive, even from other Hispanic people. I've had somebody come up and just start talking to me in Spanish, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. My Duolingo has not gotten me that far. I really apologize.
Yeah,
Ryan, what do
that's
you have anything to add?
yeah. Some people they're like they automatically assume I'm like Hispanic, without talking to them. And luckily I've never had to go through like someone walking up to me and I'll tell them I'm mixed. I'm like, really? Like, no. But I mean the closest thing to that has happened, like I tell them I'm mixed and they automatically assume like the mom is white and the dad is black, but it's reversed for me. So, but yeah, I just gotta correct them on that.
It's interesting. So you both said that you probably would gravitate more towards your black side, and what I heard was that because of the culture. Do you feel that your parents were intentional, or were there some opportunities when they were raising you to make sure that you were steeped into that black culture? How do you feel that that experience was, Ryan?
Mm. Um, can you repeat that question again? Sorry.
So, do you feel like your parents were intentional in cultivating your experiences in the Black culture, or do you feel like there were some missing things there?
Um, Honestly, I feel like I don't really know like a lot of things about the my black side or my white side to be honest. Cause like I remember because I don't really know any black movies. And whenever I'm talking to my friends about it, they're like, you ever seen this movie? And I'm like, no. He's like, how you not seen this movie? You're black. I was like, I don't know. I never got around to see it. So, but I mean, besides that, I don't know. I mean, I hung out with my black side of my family, I feel like. So, but besides that, I think I've gotten in touch with my black side.
Monet, what do you think about that? Do you feel like your parents were intentional in making sure that you had access to Black culture, or is that something that you navigated on your own as you got older?
You know what? I think it's kind of a mix. I think to
Mm,
no fault of their own, they don't know what they don't know.
sure.
So, I don't think they knew that it would be an important thing to have more Black culture, as
Hmm.
the term we're using here. I don't think it was intentional,
Hmm.
whether being in it or not, but I don't think I had as much experience or exposure as I could have.
Yeah,
Especially being homeschooled. I mean, that does kind of limit the amount of people
sure.
that you see all the time. So there is that. But even besides that, I mean, we really didn't go to any family gatherings. We
Mm.
didn't do any kind of, I mean, I've met the Black side of my family a handful of times that aren't my immediate cousins. So I think it became more important as I got older, and I don't think that my parents knew it would have been important. I think
Interesting.
had they known it would be important, I think there might have been more effort made to have those introductions or have
Yes.
those, but again, you don't know what you don't know. So, I think I think some things were left out, but not intentionally.
You said a couple of things that I'd like to explore. You said Black culture that we're using. Is there a better term that we should be using?
Not a better term that I know of. I guess I get nervous doing a generalized Black culture
Mm,
because I don't ever want to say, this is Black, this is Black, this is Black, and
yes.
these are the three things, and these are the only three things. And so I guess just trying to watch my words to not
Okay.
generalize too hard.
Yeah, I want to come back to that, but I also want to ask both of you, or I don't know, Ryan, if this was your experience, but Mona, you said that you didn't think your parents knew how important it would be. Why did it become important to you as you got older, do you think?
I think just as I think growing up, especially in America, and learning more and more about where we come from, why we're here, where we're going, where we're trying to go, where we're
Mhm.
fighting to go, I think
Mhm.
it just became more and more important to me that I understand that part of me and understand that part of my family. And I don't think my parents had the wherewithal to know that that would be an important aspect of it because they're coming at it from two separate sides. My
Yes.
dad's Black, so he's going to have an experience as a Black man. My mother is white, she's going to have an experience as a white woman. They're not going to know what that mix together is going to be, or to know what's going to be important as you're growing up in that space.
Interesting. Thank you for that. Ryan, do you want to add anything?
Um, I agree. I feel like with my parents, um, I don't know if they were trying to mix both of the cultures together, so I could get the sides of like everything. But I feel like they did a pretty good job at it because, I got to hang out with both sides of my family like relatively equally, I feel like. So, yeah.
And your comfort level with both sides of the family, do you think that that was equal? Do you feel like there was any challenges that you had when you moved into those different spaces?
To be honest, I feel like it was both equal, but I don't know. When it comes to like my other family, I don't know. I don't really talk to them like that. So like on either side. So I don't really I don't know if it was like if it's a culture thing or like I don't know. I just don't really talk to them much.
Who was the other side?
My dad's side and my
Mm,
mom's side.
let's see. Monet, did you find that the experiences were different as you navigated both sides of the family, or was it pretty much the same?
No, it definitely was different, and it felt odd to think it was different, if that makes sense. I think again, I grew up in a lot around a lot of white people. So
Mm,
the way that those spaces are conducted isn't necessarily the same as an all Black space might be
hmm.
conducted. And so I definitely, when we did do any kind of family visiting that wasn't the immediate cousins, which we haven't done a lot of, but when we did, I and still to this day will notice if there's more minorities in a space, or if there's more Black people in a space, I'm like, oh, okay. Not not off put by it, but oh, I notice it
You
more
notice it.
readily than I do me being the only Black person in a space, which, having spoken with my dad extensively, is such an interesting change from how he moves through the world of it's more comfortable when I come into a room and there's a bunch of brothers. Like
Hmm.
it's not it feels more comfortable to him than it might be to go into an all white space. I have the
Hmm.
opposite experience because I'm used to a white space that I tend to notice more when I go into a Black space that I'm in a Black space, which I think contributed to the do I belong in this space? Am
Mm.
I allowed in this space? Am I even allowed to say that I'm Black? Do I
Okay.
need to say
Mhm.
biracial? That kind of
That's
thinking
interesting.
was how I wrestled with that for years, trying to still kind of do, trying to figure out, what does my identity mean to me, and will I let it be defined by these arbitrary rules that I've put in my head?
Yeah, well, sometimes society puts it in your head. And so it's interesting. You're both, I believe you're both Gen Z, and you made a comment about checking boxes and people putting you in a box.
Mhm.
Do you feel that your generation is more fluid in terms of identity, and that this concept of trying to check off a box is kind of lost in your generation? Like I don't resonate, it doesn't resonate with me.
I absolutely think so. And I happily think so. I've found that it's a lot more freeing, at least the people that I tend to be around, the people that I know, when you're not having to check those boxes. Like your brain still actively tries to make the box. Your brain still wants to build the box around a
Right.
person, but I think the acceptance of freedom of expression, whether that be how you dress, how you wear your hair, your voice, your mannerisms, any and every part of you is accepted wholeheartedly. And then we can worry about your label later. It doesn't really, what you are doesn't matter, who you are does.
Yeah.
Do you feel the same, Ryan? Do you feel that do you feel like sometimes you need to put a label on who you are, or do you think that the people that you no, okay, nobody can see
No.
your head.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like no. When it comes to this generation, I wasn't obviously I don't really know that much about the other generations. I wasn't born then, but when it comes to Gen Z, I feel like they're very open to like anything, and they don't really care about labels, I guess. I mean, obviously, like some people every now and then are gonna say something, but like, yeah, people could dress however they want, do whatever they want. People won't even bat an eye, which I think is really cool. So, yeah, I think Gen Z is pretty when it comes to labels, pretty free.
Well, and I
It's
think
interesting.
too,
Mhm, it's
there's a
okay.
level of like the label is good when you're trying to find like for like, but it doesn't but the the relationship doesn't stop at the label. So I might go, okay, well more I want to find some bisexual biracial people to hang out with. Well,
Hmm.
that's great, but that's not what we're discussing all the time when we're hanging out. That's how we got to the table. That's not what we're eating. That's not what we're talking about. It's just it becomes an aspect of your identity and more of a tool, I think, to find people similar to you that at least at first, and then you go deeper from there.
Love that. That's interesting. Ryan, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I can hang around any kinds of people, but finding people like yourself, like that are biracial, and I think that just helps build a connection even more. So I agree.
Last week, we had talked a little bit about microaggressions, and it was more about the black and the white spaces. Do you, I don't know this based on this last conversation, but do you feel like the microaggressions for you are different, or do you experience them at all? In Monet, you had mentioned something about your hair, and so both of your hair obviously is going to be very unique because you have two cultures that are blending together. Do you ever encounter anything like that, and what does that look like?
Um, I definitely think the microaggressions are a bit different. I think the microaggressions exist because I'm a brown person in a white space or in a white world. So I think they're always going to exist, but the level to which they exist is like drastically different between me and even say my sister, who my sister has locks and much more coarse or hair
Mhm.
texture. So her experience moving through the world is going to be different than my experience moving through the world solely because of those little differences that other people might pick up on. So I do find that there is some microaggression, but it doesn't tend to be, at least in my experience, it has not been as blatant. It hasn't been as frequent, which I'm very thankful for.
Yes. Yeah. Ryan.
To be honest, if I ever did get any microaggressions, it probably just flew over my head. But besides that, I can't think of any time that anyone
Mhm.
was like being racist to me. If not, it was just a friend, just making jokes to each other. But, besides that, no, nothing serious.
Yeah, I
Interesting.
feel like there's more, at least for me, I don't know about you, Ryan, but I feel like I get most of the talk about identity is mostly just what are you because it's not clear just looking at
Hmm.
Yeah.
me. So it's a lot of I really have gotten are you sure before
Mm.
because I'll say, "Oh, I'm black." They go, "Really? Are you sure?"
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
go,
Are you sure it's crazy?
which is when I have to go, "Well, I'm black and white." Oh, because you couldn't look like that either any other way. There's no chance. Like that's the kind of microaggression that I
Hmm.
tend to get is the questioning and the yeah the are
Yeah.
you sure was wild. That thankfully that only happened once. That one
Yeah.
only happened once.
That's good.
But that was a day. So yeah, I think it's mostly a question of identity and like I said, it's I come at it for me at least I come at it with a lot of grace because it's I understand that you're
Mm.
trying to check the box in your head,
Mm.
but I also know that it'll be more concerning if you let whatever that box you just checked define me. So I have to keep an eye on it. But if all you need to do is check that box in your head by asking me what I am, let's get it over with.
Okay. So, what advice would you give to any young biracial kids that are struggling with their identity? Do you have any advice for them?
Um, Honestly, hang out with both sides. That's
Hmm.
pretty much it. And if you're leaning towards one side more and you feel like you're not really connecting with the other side, go to the other side. Like I don't know, like join some clubs or something or ask your other parent, like, yo, can I see some other see my cousins or something? And but yeah.
That's good. Renee, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think I would say probably two things. One, ask questions. It is what I didn't realize growing up is that this kind of thought process is completely normal when we live in a society that wants to check the box. So the fact that you might feel a little lost on one side or the other is a normal thing and nothing to be ashamed of. Doesn't make you a bad biracial person, doesn't make you a bad black person. It doesn't define who you are. So ask questions. Ask people, what is your experience being black like? What's your experience being white like? Find more biracial people. Just ask questions. The more knowledge you have, the better you will get to understanding yourself, which is the second thing I would say is don't let those boxes that other people want to check define you. Don't let what you assume to be black, what you assume to be white, don't let those define you because at the end of the day you are you and what race you are doesn't matter in the grand scheme. It's much more important that you figure out how do you want to present Ryan? How do you want to present
Hmm.
Monet? How do you want to present Coretta? Like
Hmm.
that's what's important is how do you want to present in the world and go from there. Don't worry about am I allowed in this space? Don't worry about am I not enough this? Am I not enough that? Am I too much this, too much that? You're not. You're
Hmm.
you. And a space is going to accept you or it won't, but you are still you. So don't worry about the box. Just worry about you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bar.
Right.
Write it down.
Did
When
you
you
want to
get
add
to,
anything else to it, Ryan?
um, yeah, I mean, you know, people could check all these boxes off, but by the end of the day, I mean, you're still you. So I mean, she summed it up perfectly. Yeah.
So, well, we talked a little bit about your parents, and for other parents of biracial children, what, in your opinion, can they do to nurture their full identity? I know that you were saying ask questions, but what could your parents do proactively to ensure that you are exposed to enough so that you can be, comfortable in your identity?
Show the movies, like, I don't know, Rush Hour.
Rush hour,
And
Roots.
come over and we'll
Put
watch
Roots
Rush
on.
Hour.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, I'll reiterate, you don't know what you don't know. Something your kid may grow up and they may tell you, ah, you should have done XYZ. You're not gonna know until you know. So
Right.
I wouldn't get too hung up on it. What I would say is be proactive in your exposure because what your children see is how they're going to shape their definition. So
Interesting.
growing up, I'm watching media that is, and again, no fault of my parents, but the media we had was, pretty is a tall, thin white woman, right? So
Mhm.
it's the things you watch are going to shape, even if you don't mean to, it's going to start to shape the way you see things. So I would say more exposure, show them the movie, show them Rush Hour, show them things that represent both of those identities so that they can see and feel and hear the lifeblood of these cultures and then kind of let them go where they're going to go. But at least it gives them the basis for here is all the things a black person can be and a white person can be and isn't it beautiful and let's get it together.
You. So anyone in the audience listening, if you have a list of Black movies that Ryan and I need to move through, feel free to drop those in the comments.
Honestly, I probably need to watch them too, so send them to me.
Yeah.
So we're coming to the end now. So I'm going to ask you both since you asked me question, is there any music or artists that you're listening to now that we should probably tune into? Anything that's interesting to you? Ryan, what are you listening
Um,
to?
I listen, well, first I'll say the genres. I listen to rap and I guess indie. Those are like the main things I listen to. So I guess rap, I guess my number one artist, I think it's Polo G. And then number two for like indie is Biba Doobie. She's
Oh yeah, she's good.
yeah, but you know,
Monet, what are you listening to?
My favorite artist right now, and I'm so, so thankful she came to town so I got to see her live, is Queen Herbie. It's Queen spelled Queen, Herbie.
Mhm.
She raps. She is fantastic. I have also been on that Doechii train, hardcore Doechii stan. I love her. She's just magnificent. I can't get enough. So probably those two are high on my listen list right now.
Love it. Thank you. And I'm still listening to 70s music, so I haven't moved past that.
No shame in that, please. That's the good stuff.
Well, Monet and Ryan, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you sharing your experience, your advice, and your journey. I really learned a lot, and I appreciate you. This is a wrap for this episode of Well, Since You Asked Me, and I hope this conversation left everyone with something to think about, something to question, and maybe even something to share. As usual, I would like to thank our executive producer, John Dunson, audio and video technician Ryan Sexton, and graphic designer Ellen Jacobs. If you enjoyed today's discussion, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, rate it, and spread the word. Until next time, stay curious, stay open, and keep asking the questions that matter. Bye!